Hi, this is Annie Fox for Family Confidential, Secrets of Successful Parenting. My guest today is Lenore Skenazy. Lenore is the author of Free Range Kids, How to Raise Safe, Self-Reliant Children Without Going Nuts with Worry. She is also the host of the new reality show on Discovery Life Channel called World's Worst Mom, which is about training overprotective and anxious parents to give their children more independence. Hi, Lenore. Welcome to Family Confidential.
Thanks, Annie. Hi.
I wanted to talk to you as soon as I heard about your book, Free Range Kids, because I was raised by a rather anxious mother. And she seemed to get more anxious as I moved into the tween and teen years. Mm-hmm. And I am not that kind of mom and wanted to know, first of all, I know you have a new reality show that's on the Discovery Life Channel called World's Worst Mom. How did you get that accolade? You seem like a pretty nice person.
Little do you know. I got the name 6 years ago already when I let my 9-year-old ride the subway by himself. And I wrote a column about it. I'm a newspaper columnist by trade. You can hear all the New York traffic behind me. Anyways, he was safe, even with New York surrounding him. And people who didn't think that I had done the right thing called me America's worst mom. And then when this reality TV show came calling, they gave me a promotion to world's worst mom. So I guess I must wear it proudly.
You're right up there next to
That's right.
The universe.
That's right. Alien mom.
When you wrote the column, Lenore, were you thinking that you had done something revolutionary by letting him ride the subway alone?
I didn't think it was revolutionary. I knew it was a little controversial because I didn't write about it immediately. He'd taken the subway and I was just happy about it, and so was he. And it wasn't until about a month and a half later that I even considered writing a column, because by then I had talked to some of the other fourth grade moms about it, and there's more skepticism than I'd expected. And a lot of them were planning to wait till their kids were 38 or 39.
If even then.
Right. And so I wrote my column explaining why I thought it was fine for him to do something on his own.
I see. Okay. And he probably loved the opportunity and proved himself to be responsible.
In that instance, yes.
Yes. Well, we know.
Not a perfect kid. Nobody is.
No.
But wonderful.
I think it's really interesting that, we kind of live in an age of parental anxiety. Maybe moms more than dads. Not so sure about that, but that's my gut sense.
No, I'm positive you're right. And not to say that there aren't anxious dads, but I'd say the moms outweigh them 3-1.
Yeah. And so I'll tell you, just to give you a bit of background, for the last almost 18 years, I've been on the receiving end of email from tweens and teens from around the world.
Oh.
And so they tell me what it feels like from their perspective to be on such a short leash, feel like their parents are treating them as if they are 6 when they're in fact 15.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hear some of those letters, because I really do. People say, well, why not be better safe than sorry? I'm like, something is lost. It's not a zero sum here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I watched a few clips of your show, and I think it's brilliant. I think that what you do that is so helpful is to help parents relax, and also to understand that in their hypervigilance, they may be robbing their kids of some really special opportunities to be challenged and to problem solve and to use their good judgment.
It's interesting that you mentioned about how the teens feel like they're being treated like they're 6-year-olds. The families that I was visiting, and remember, I do 13 families over the course of World's Worst Mom. They were chosen for me because they were extremely anxious. And these are moms who I feel are treating their children almost not as if they're 6, as if they're babies. I mean, I was just watching one of the episodes this morning, and the woman kept referring to her 9-year-old as like, my baby. I don't want my baby out of my sight. How's my baby? It's like, he's 9. And so what I would have us the parents do in all the episodes is basically sit back, sometimes almost with me sitting on them, while the kids went out and did something that used to be normal for a kid that age to do, that nobody would think twice about. Running an errand, learning how to ride a bike, walking to school, a 4-minute walk to school. And the parents were so very anxious. And I guess that anxiety was because they were really imagining almost a 2-year-old doing these things. And they didn't realize, like, your child was 2, now he's 16. There was one mom who ran after her 16-year-old son, literally her 16-year-old son, this was in today's episode, with an Elmo juice box. He's 6'2".
And how did the 16-year-old respond to this?
It was interesting. In that family, he was very, I would say, shut down. His mom would ask him questions. Like, finally, we let him go to a party. And of course the camera crew let him go to a party. And she asked, "How was it?" "It was fine." "Well, how many people there?" "A bunch of people." I mean, I think he just, at some point your soul hurts that your mother doesn't see you for who you are, and to try not to be incredibly mean or resentful, you just limit the interaction. At least that's what it looked like with this kid. There was another kid in a recent episode, the 9-year-old, who wasn't allowed to like leave the driveway, basically, and he reacted in a different way. He kept throwing tantrums. He was being treated like a baby, and so he responded like a baby.
Well, I can't blame the kids for
I
being
don't.
resentful,
Yeah.
especially if they have any means of comparison to what is normal for kids my age, what I see my friends and my peers doing. And yet, mom, again, we're going back to mom, seems so just stuck in this
Yeah.
anxiety. I feel for her too.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like I don't blame the kids for being resentful, but I don't blame the parents, moms or dads, for being extremely terrified, because I feel like we live in a society that is shoving fear down our throats at every
Yes.
second. It's almost like I feel like I could pick up anything. I remember, here, I'm just picking up this magic marker that's on my desk, because I remember when my kids were in grammar school, at one of the PTA meetings, one of the moms raised her hand and said, "Why are we using dry erase markers? They emit a scent, and isn't that going to corrupt their endocrine system? And aren't they going to end up with cancer?" And it's like, if you can worry about a magic marker because you've seen something on the internet, or if you can worry your kid is drinking from a plastic bottle, not a baby, not a glass bottle, or if you can worry that your kid is waiting at the bus stop with 3 other kids but there's no adults there, and there are all sorts of forces making you think that those worries are natural and necessary. One of my favorite examples from this past year in terms of overweening craziness is Rhode Island. 4 representatives in Rhode Island proposed a law that would make it illegal for a child to wait at the school bus stop, anybody under 7th grade, so that's anyone 12 and under, without a parent waiting with them in the morning, and without a chaperone waiting in the afternoon to walk them home.
Oh, please tell me this bill did not pass.
It did not pass. I think one of the reasons it didn't pass is because I got sort of a decent amount of publicity, and people started,
That's
protesting.
ridiculous.
But I'm sure that the representatives who were proposing it didn't think, like, how can I make life almost impossible for working moms? They were thinking, how can we make children safer, and how can we show that we care? And, there was that kid who was kidnapped once from a bus stop, and so why should we ever let a kid be at a bus stop again? And that's the way our society tends to view almost anything bad happening to a kid. If it happened once anywhere, no matter how unusual or anomalous the circumstances, let's just ban it. Let's not let kids wait in the car ever alone again, because sometimes some kids die after hours and hours in a car. Let's not let them wait even 5 minutes in a car. That's the kind of society we live in.
I know. And so I'm taking the point of view of a parent who wants to do what's right. And his or her number one job is to keep my child safe.
I agree.
And as you say, I'm being bombarded
Yeah.
with these images and these stories and a constant diet of fear evoking situations that have happened maybe in the next town, the next state, whatever.
Or
And
maybe thousands of miles away, and they show
and
up on TV.
I personalize it because I'm a parent, and I feel I feel trapped in my anxiety. So how can you give help to these parents where you're saying, okay, I can say to you, you're not serving your child's development by being this way. And they're saying, I know I'm being crazy, but I can't help it. How do you help them unclench their fists and their minds? How?
And their shoulders.
And their shoulders and their hearts.
Right. And as a nervous mom, first of all, nobody believes I'm a nervous mom, but my son just got his license, the subway rider. Now got
Okay,
his
now
license.
that's really something to be nervous about.
I'm very, very sickeningly nervous about that. There's all sorts of resources that you can read about. The times today are safer than they ever were before. We're back to the crime rate of 1963. If you were born after that, your childhood was in less safe times than your own child's
Good
is
to
now.
know.
But that doesn't matter to anybody.
Doesn't matter.
I've watched this not, make any impression on anybody for 6 years. So what I have realized works, and I realized it sort of through the TV show, is that the only thing that changes parents isn't, alas, me, my book, my blog, nothing. The children can change the parents. And what you do need is to steel yourself for once to let your kid do something that they feel they're ready for. And whether that's walking to school or running an errand for you, or even going into the men's room. And on my television show, I had a mom with a 13-year-old son who still took him into the ladies' room.
I saw that one.
Oh, yeah. She was so happy at the end. I should run into, right at my kitchen. I should show you the mug she gave me when we were done of her whole family. She was so grateful because what I did with her family, what I do with all these families is I take the children away and off they go. And we see, they either see a little videotape, the parents see a little videotape of the kid, like going into the bathroom, then coming out, and they go, wow, that's cool. Or even better, with that family, there were children 13, like 10 and 8, something like that. And I had them go down the block beyond where the mom could see them and have a lemonade stand. And when they had that lemonade stand and they came back home, and the mother's been anxious the whole time and angry at me, and why are you laughing? This is not a funny thing, Lenore. I was like, I didn't think I was laughing. Maybe I was. But anyways, they come in, they go, oh, we just had the greatest time. We made $23 and we sold so much lemonade and we forgot to put the sugar in it. Oh my God, everyone was jealous. We got to have the lemonade stand. They didn't. When the parent sees that, they can't help but smile because they're so proud and they're remembering their own childhood and look at what my kids can do. And it's only that like switcheroo from my kid is going to get killed if he's down the block and I can't see him to look what my kid can do. I'm so proud of them. It's the only thing that works is breaking the old image of the child as vulnerable baby and replacing it with something that's even more fulfilling for a parent, which is this competent, blossoming young man or woman. And the only thing that does that is seeing the kid himself.
Okay, well, you've got kind of a double whammy here because seeing the kid, him or herself, being independent and the competent emerging young adult that they are becoming, and letting go of your fear are sometimes in conflict. So short of having Lenore Skenazy come to your house.
Yeah, which of course you can. I actually do free-range house calls. If you look me up, free-range house calls.
But I'm wondering what tips you can give for my podcast viewers. It's like they know what they're doing is wrong and they really feel out of control with their anxiety.
I understand. No, I understand. That's how anxiety is. And really, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist or anything. Years of therapy, but not a psychologist myself. But what it sounds like I'm doing from what I've read is that this is like the exposure therapy, like something that you're afraid of and you expose yourself to it. Well, how do you expose yourself to it? It's hard to do it alone, and I'm not going to come to everyone's house. So what I've started doing is asking schools to do what I call the Free Range Kids Project. And that is a school will take on this idea that all the teachers are going to tell the kids today, okay, when you go home, that's my exchange student, Italian exchange student in the back there. He's 17. He's away from his whole country.
Oh, no, he's pretty independent, and his parents are letting him be here. Yay!
Yay! All right. So anyway, let me just quickly explain the Free Range Kids Project, which is so great. So the teachers tell the kids, okay, today I want you to go home, think about something that you feel like you're ready to do that for one reason or another you haven't done yet. And with the school endorsing this idea, and the school psychologists are usually on board, and the counselors, and obviously the principal has said yes, then it becomes easier for the parent to say, okay, just this once, because it's a one-shot
It's a homework assignment.
It's a homework assignment. They're used to it. They're good parents. They know what to do. You're supposed to do something, if it's assigned to you. And also, I'm not saying for now on you have to let your kid walk to school. No, that would never work. I'm saying do it once. Do it once. And I have here, like literally here, lucky Midas, like a stack of, these are the responses from parents who have done the project. This was at a school in Menlo Park. And they say like, my kid made breakfast for us. This was a third grader. And now she's, pride. And what did you get from it? Pride and joy and a great meal made from love of my beautiful girl. And then it just goes on and on. All these parents who weren't willing to let their kids ride their bike to school or run an errand, it's so quick. It's so quick because the fear that they feel, this excessive fear of doing, even like of having your kid walk around the block, is not, you think it's natural, but it's actually been sort of brainwashed into you. And this is a way to wake up from the brainwashing. And on my show, at the very beginning when I go there, I sit with the kids and I say, "What aren't you allowed to do?" And I write this big, poster. We're not allowed to ride a bike, not allowed to, use the microwave, not allowed to walk to school, not allowed to cut my own food, whatever, on and on and on and on. And then at the end, when I show the parents that same gigantic list, I watched one woman go like this.
She had lost track of all the rules.
She couldn't remember why she'd made those rules. They seemed crazy to her now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that to me, it just gives me great hope because it's the fear. Fear is normal in parents, but this overweening worry about absolutely every aspect of our children's lives, that's been shoved out of, what is it? It's like superficial. It can break. It's like a very thin layer of glass and it can break.
Okay. So it sounds like if your school is not involved in the Free Range Kids project,
get it involved.
Get it involved.
Yes.
But just from listening to this podcast, my viewers and listeners could say, I recognize myself in the kind of parent that Lenore is describing here. Sounds to me like it would be helpful if we had a family meeting tonight and I asked my kids to make a list of all the things they have gotten from me in terms of, you're not allowed to do this, and make that list so they kind of facilitate the kind of intervention that you do, but you're not there. So you can ask your kids and say, I'm starting to think that maybe I'm a little too restrictive. You think, Mom?
Really?
Please make a list for me. I'd like to see all the things that you believe you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, or even just, it doesn't have to be this long thing because then it could start getting like feeling like they're ganging up on Mom. And it's like,
Okay.
and she doesn't let me, and she makes me do this or whatever. It could just be the one thing that you feel you're ready to do. That's not bungee jumping. That for one reason or another, you haven't done yet. Maybe I've been reluctant, or maybe you haven't thought about it for long enough. So that is the free range. That's the same thing that you'd be asking through the school. But yes, you could just do it. And you know what? It's sometimes hard to do things alone. So find another mom who you like a lot and say, "What do you think of this idea? I heard about this free range kids project. What do you think?" And if they say yes, then maybe you could do it together. And maybe when you send their kids out to walk to the park or something,
That would probably be easier. Yeah.
It would be easier. You could be having a cup of coffee with her. And even your kids could be together if you have one child, or, one child's much older than your younger one and you only want to send the older one out. So send them out with a friend because that helps everybody.
It's really good. I'm so glad you're doing this, Lenore, because
you.
I could hear and feel shoulders relaxing all around the world as they go, because obviously when you're parenting from this anxiety place, you're not enjoying parenting.
No. That was the other thing, too. I was thinking that I was watching the show again, and I was thinking, ooh, sorry, there go my earbuds. One sec. See, things can go wrong, and it's still okay. People forget that, too. Nothing has to be perfect. But I was thinking that they should market this as like that I'm like a facelift. Because if you look at the after I finish with a family, and usually they're very happy, 12 of the 13 families changed to the point where they were unrecognizable from the first time. But then the camera crew would go back like a month or two later to see what was happening. And like the boy who hadn't been allowed to bicycle at all, he'd never been allowed to learn how to ride a bike.
He's now doing the Tour de France.
He wasn't, but he did spend 2 weeks that summer in BMX bike camp. So that's pretty close. And funny you should mention Tour de France because afterwards he went to France. But anyways, my point is that the moms look great.
They were
look
happier.
Better.
They were relaxed.
Just don't look like this. They were crying so much when I was with them because our minds have been sort of trained to do what the phrase I'm trying to popularize is called worst first thinking. Go to that worst place scenario first. Catastrophize. Yeah, I know. I guess the word already exists. Yeah. But it's like imagine your kid, tied up or on the street, hit by a car. You're expected to go to that place if you're a good mom today. That's why I feel this fear is superimposed. My mom didn't have to think of me dead every time she let me walk to school. The way I feel like parents are told, like, aren't you worried? What if something terrible happens? I feel like that's the narrative today that we have to pull back on. But when you stop thinking that way, it's like the war is over. Your happy days are here again.
Great. It's really good. It's a wonderful antidote to this other stuff, which is toxic, and
It is
you're just pushing your kids away from you, which is just the
Yeah, that
opposite of
too.
what you really want. So we've got about 30 seconds left, and I'm wanting you to give our viewers an opportunity to find out more about your work. So where
Oh,
can they find you online?
Oh, well, I'm pretty darn easy to find. Let's see, there's Free Range Kids, the blog, Free Range Kids, the book, Free Range Kids, the Twitter feed. And if you want me to come speak at your school, that's the only way I make my living. You just go to Free Range Kids and you look at speaking engagements.
So it's freerangekids.com.
FreeRangeKids.com. Yeah.
Thank you, Lenore, so much for this time. I'm sure this is going to hit the hearts and minds of a lot of people in a good way.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. And you know what? Tell me. I mean, if you try this, write me a letter. I'm really easy. I just press the contact button and I'll hear from you. I'll cheer you on.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Annie.
Bye. This is Annie Fox for Family Confidential. To learn more about my parent and family coaching, visit anniefox.com. And please check out my book, Teaching Kids to Be Good People, Progressive Parenting for the 21st Century, and my latest book for tween girls, the Girls Q&A book on friendship, 50 Ways to Fix a Friendship Without the Drama. And if you like this podcast, we ask that you review it on iTunes. It may be a little thing to you, but it means an awful lot to us. And tune in when my guest will be Dr. Susan Smith Kuzmarski. Dr. Kuzmarski is the author of Becoming a Happy Family, Pathways to the Family Soul. Family Confidential podcast is produced by Electric Eggplant, creators of books and apps for parents, kids, tweens, and teens. Until next time, happy parenting.